Welcome back. I'm Rose Martin, and this is Real Life with Susan Harf, our very favorite life coach. Like you, I can't wait to hear what's on her mind today. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Rose. I'm happy to see you, and I'm so glad you decided to join us today. What's on my mind today is happiness. And the exciting part about our topic today is I'm going to teach you how to do it.
How to be happy, how to stay happy, or how to make others happy?
Well, not how to make others happy, but
Okay.
the first two.
Okay, good.
How to stay happy, how to be happy. You know, happiness is really a willingness. It starts with a series of decisions that we make that lead us toward a willingness to be happy. It's not something that is just a natural thing.
But don't you wake up some days and you're like, I'm in a good mood. I feel happy today.
Yes.
But you're also saying we may have to make a decision to say, maybe I didn't wake up in a good mood, but I'm going to be happy today.
Exactly.
Okay. How do I do it?
It's a decision we make. And one of the ways that we do it is to realize that happiness has a lot to do with not just forgiveness, but gratefulness. So happiness is a form of gratitude.
You know, I hear a lot where people say, you know, I did my gratefulness journal, or I did a meditation about everything I was grateful for, and it really helps settle the mind and gives me a better outlook on your day. And you're saying that's absolutely true.
I believe that. And I also believe that when you think in terms of happiness as a form of gratitude, you can also think to yourself, well, what happens when you're unhappy? And I honestly believe that when you're unhappy, you're not in touch with gratitude. I believe you're not grateful.
And you know, when we're grateful, we're thinking about gratefulness, at least with me, I'm thinking, oh, so Susan's asking me to think back to something that I'm happy about, because if I'm being grateful about something, it's bringing a positive memory in my life, right? And
Oftentimes.
so then I'm going to smile and be, oh yeah, that was really good.
Oftentimes it is. I also think sometimes unhappy people are living too much in the past, and what they're recalling are the negative things, the bad things, the things that they don't want to repeat, and don't really know how they got there. They don't know what led them to that unhappy place, and so they bring that into the forward. So I don't tend to think about happiness relative to the past too much, but I do believe that we need to take stock of, are we grateful? And that can mean being grateful for major things, our life in general. It can also mean this second. And that's what I find so exciting about this topic, is that we can change in a second. In a second, we can make ourselves go from unhappy to happy. And so the main, I would say, overriding principle here as to how do we do it, the main answer is you get in touch with what you are grateful for, because it's impossible to be grateful and be unhappy.
What if you can't think of anything?
If you can't think of anything, think about people that you know who do seem to be happy, and think about the ways they behave and the ways they act. One of the things you'll see is that happy people that will come to your mind don't have it all. So it's a mistake to believe that in order to be happy, you have to have everything that you always wanted. In fact, it's the opposite. Happiness really has nothing to do with what you have, especially material things.
But people think that. I mean, you think maybe if I get this, I'll be happy, or maybe if someone else does this, I'll be happy.
And then what do you find out when you have that or get that?
That they just not do what I want, right?
Exactly.
It didn't really satisfy you, I guess.
No, it didn't make you happy. So
Yeah.
what that says is it's got to come from within. It has to come from within you to be happy. And that what that's seeking has a lot to do with our society. It has a lot to do with the way we're brought up. It has a lot to do with what we're taught. But one of the things that I find about happy people is that they determine what is going to make them happy. So there's a lot of deliberate thought and a lot of deliberate action when it relates to happiness. It's not going to be prescribed by somebody else. What makes somebody else happy isn't even what's going to make you happy.
So I'm curious, if it's in our own cognitive ability to make ourselves happy, and it's all connected, body, mind, spirit. So do you believe that there's a connection, like simple enough if I smile? if I smile, I see myself smiling, or I put a smile on my face, that transfers into feelings of happiness?
It does. And the reason it does is because that is a deliberate action. If you say to yourself, I'm going to put a smile on my face, then that's a deliberate thought, which leads to a deliberate action. And you know what? Have you ever walked down the street and seen people smiling?
Yes.
It makes you smile.
And it makes you happy, right? Because you see people in the store and they're smiling, or they greet you and they're saying hello and they're smiling. You're like, oh,
That's exactly
they're
right.
having a good day. Yeah.
I don't know if I've told you the story before, that one day I was walking down the street and I met a guy who was very happy, and I didn't know him. I had never met him before. And he had a big, huge smile on his face, and he was actually passing out money. And
He was making other people happy.
he was making other people happy. But I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, well, I just was given this money, and I don't need this money, and I'm giving it to others. And I said, the first thing I noticed about you, I didn't see the bills first. I saw your face. You looked so happy. And he said to me, how did that make you feel? I said, happy. So
Did he give you any money?
I told him I didn't want the money from him, but I did, to tell you, well, of course I'm going to be truthful with you and with Rose. I asked him for coffee, and some people thought I was crazy. Why are you asking a complete stranger for coffee? But I knew he had something to teach me, and we had coffee. And in the coffee shop, he told me that when he can make other people happy, it changes his mood. So I don't often tell people, go about your life making others happy. But what his story tells us is that when you meet someone who is happy, it absolutely has an impact on you. That doesn't mean to say your purpose should be to make someone else happy. It means that look at all the happiness that you spread by being happy yourself. And that's really who you owe your mood to, is you.
So, when you said that, I thought to myself, oh gosh, so is Susan telling me that I can go into a situation and make others happy just by being happy? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that when you're happy, you're self-directed. And when you're happy, you're confident. And what you're confident about is leading your life the way you want to lead it. And that's really what we need to pay attention to. Not so much having the impact on others, although it absolutely will. But I find that happy people seek out other happy people.
That's true, because who do I want to be around? Do I want to be around people who are happy, encouraging, and, positive teachers? Or do I want to be around people that are negative, complaining, and downers? And you don't.
You don't. And the exciting thing about what we're speaking about, this topic today, is that you can be content and still want to do other things in your life or have different things in your life. So for instance, let's say you're single and you want to be married. You can still be very content being single and still do things which are going to make you end up the way you want to be, which if you want to be married.
So is contentment and happiness parallel? Are they the same thing, or are they different?
They're cousins. You can be content and say, I want to increase the happiness in my life, and I believe that I would be more happy if I had a spouse, or if I had a different job, or if I lived somewhere differently. So you can want to change things. But in fact, not only can you be content and want to change, contentment is the first step toward change. When you are content, you are somebody who likes yourself, you're somebody who likes being with yourself, you're somebody who thinks you have a right to be happy, and that contentment and that feeling will lead you toward working on what you need to work on in order to make changes in your life. So I don't want people to get confused about contentment and happiness. Mm-hmm. They are akin, and they can also lead you toward change.
So how do I, if I'm grateful, how do I get to the point of thinking about what I'm grateful for, and then actually making that a part of my life so I can stay happy and not get so worried or get so hung up on things that might not be going my way.
I don't think that it needs to be something that you're gonna change everything. It needs to be a situation where you're gonna change everything in your life right now. I think you can, like you said, some people use a journal, some people use meditation. Happy people take time to think. And the reverse of that is when you are operating just remotely and rotely. In other words, you're just doing the first thing that comes to your mind based on what somebody else said or what somebody else did or what somebody else has, instead of asking yourself questions. What do I need to make me happy?
And so that's what we're thinking about. When you said happy people take time to think, we're not only thinking about what we're grateful for, you're telling me that I need to really think about why I'm not happy or what would make me happy?
We need to think about what are the things you need in your life to make you happier, and what are you gonna do about it?
So it's up to me.
So it is
Okay.
absolutely up to each of us to do the things necessary to change our lives toward more happiness. But at the same time, you can be happy today, you can be content today, and still know you want to make life changes. So it's not one or the other. The other thing that I think comes into play here is all of the other kinds of influences that we have in our life.
Meaning, what are those?
The people who raised us, the colleagues around us, our neighbors, the people that we meet, our supervisors, our bosses, people we supervise. Everyone has an impact on your day.
Well, it might be people, right? Are you saying it could also be the weather or the traffic? Or,
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. But what we need to do is to make a conscious effort to be coming from within instead of outside. So in other words, if the weather's bad and we don't like driving in bad weather, you can do whatever you can to not drive when it's bad weather, but when you have to,
You might not get anywhere.
correct. So when you have to, you can say to yourself, I'm not going to allow this to ruin my entire day. There are people who are very anxious when they're driving in bad weather. I get that. So you can say to yourself, when I am done with the incident of driving home, I'm really done with it. I'm not going to sit and perseverate and think about it for the next 24 hours. And that's the difference between happy people and unhappy people. When you're a happy person and you have an unhappy circumstance, you move through it knowing life is not going to be perfect. I'm going to have, and if I really despise bad weather, I'm going to have something that I despise today. But then it's going to end, and then I have the right to focus on what does make me happy.
How do you break that cycle, like of not thinking about it and then saying, oh, the weather was so bad on my way home, and you're reliving it again for everybody who happens to come into your life, or ruminating on it? How do you do that in a second to say, okay, it's done, I'm home, I'm safe?
Some of it is personality. Some of, we all know people who, we describe them as Debbie Downer, somebody who can see the negative in every situation or keeps bringing the negative back. I think it takes self-will. And so that's where we really started with this topic, is that in order to be happy, you got to want to be happy. It's not something that's just going to happen to you. And part of that conversation that you have with yourself is things that are going to happen maybe every day that don't make me thrilled. But can I still be happy in spite of that? Yes. Do I want to have it's kind of like when people say that the cup is half empty or the cup is half full. That really is a decision. And that's what's really exciting, is that you can make that decision for yourself. It doesn't mean you are always going to decide or have happen things that just make you thrilled all day long. Even if you make that decision, as I just said, to be happy, it doesn't mean that you don't have these outside forces. You do. But what you have absolute control over is how long you're going to let that impact you. And too often, people allow the negative to stay with them and to oversee and overshadow the positive things that are happening. I have people in my life who will only talk about the negative things that happen. And I find out from somebody else that they had something positive to happen that they didn't tell me.
And that's exhausting, isn't it?
It can be exhausting, absolutely. So I think we need to look here at self traits, and you can change your personality just like you can change your happiness mood.
And you're not saying that's easy, but what I'm getting from me is that I have a choice between two things. This happened to me, and I can choose to focus there, or I can choose to put that in a box or lay it down or whatever, and I can choose to turn away and be happy.
And yes, and at the same time, you can also make decisions about what you're going to allow influence you. So for instance, I have a big beef with social media right now. I really do. I think too often people are very swayed by what they see in social media. There's been all kinds of studies done about social media and the way it affects people, the way it's affecting young people. If you're looking at social media to direct your life, you got a problem. Because social media is always going to point out to you people that have and do and are things that you're not, that you might want.
Or maybe that's not even what they are, right?
So often.
Right.
And that's one of my other issues with it, is the honesty piece. But in fact, happy people are honest. Happy people are honest about their lives. They don't need to have everything perfect. They don't need to get on social media and say, I ate this fabulous meal at this fabulous restaurant with these fabulous people. Happy people can say, we stayed in tonight for dinner and had a simple meal, and it was fun.
And are you suggesting that we can be happy just who we are without even bringing it out to social media, or by not even telling other people about it? So
Yes.
it's with just you in your own head about how you're reacting and how you want to feel. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And as an example of how this has gotten out of hand when people don't do that is, I see these so-called influencers on social media, and the kind of influence that they end up having, which is negative on people who believe that the influencer's life is perfect, and so why can't theirs be too? And if you are someone who's already perseverating about the past, or perseverating about the bad things, or not feeling good about your life, it's easy to see how having a front row seat to somebody else's sometimes not honest, dishonest life would make you feel even worse. So I think sometimes we have to be strong enough and courageous enough to say, I'm going to limit what I see. I'm going to limit the impact that I'm going to allow others have on me. I have made a decision a long time ago that the people who influence me are going to be people that I decide I want them to do so, and also people that I know. If you're happy, you are going to associate, A, we said before, with happy people, but B, you're also going to associate and be influenced by people who are really in your life because they care about you, they want the best for you, and they're willing to be with you in all of your moments, in all of your moods. That's who I want to be with. I don't want to be influenced by people who have no idea who I really am, or I have no idea who they really are, as you just brought up. Their lives could be entirely different, and often are, than what they're presenting.
So when you surround yourself by those people, does that make you happier or increase your level of happiness?
Yes. If you surround yourself with people who care about you, and you allow them to influence you by deliberately asking their opinion, or just by being around them and noticing how they value their lives and what they do to bring value to their life. I'm not saying that we can't, in fact, I'm saying the opposite. We need to learn from other people. We need to get feedback from other people. Feedback from other people is to tell us how we're doing in life. I believe we need that. But we have to be very deliberate about how we do that.
And you had said earlier that there's even science. So what is the science behind either what we think about or how we make ourselves happy, or like if you believe certain things happen and then you focus on those, it means you're going to be focusing on the negative. I mean, is there really like psychology and science around this?
There is. And, you know, there was a recent study, for instance, that where Americans were asked to define how happy they were. 1/3 of Americans said they were happy, so 2/3 were not. And what that makes me think about is, do those people who said that, do they know what happiness is? Or are they saying, I'm unhappy because my life is not perfect? And that's where I think that we have some control over who and what we allow into our lives.
So how would you define happiness?
My happiness is, do I accept responsibility for my life? Do I accept not only that my life is going to be great some days, but also not great others? And that's because I'm not perfect, and I'm going to contribute to when I have an unhappy day. And so if I believe that it's my doing, that I've made it that way, then I can also make my life a happy life.
So I can take it apart. If I made it that way, I can take it apart and change it.
Exactly. Happy people decide what's going to make them happy in the first place, not just recognizing when they are happy, but they decide what is really going to bring me the happiness that I want. It has so little to do with other people and what they want and what they have. Almost every single person that I've ever met have things about them that are really not the way they want it. But to choose to still be happy is a choice. It absolutely is not created by the rest of the world.
But why is it so hard?
Because we don't have control sometimes over what happens to us. There are things that happen that we really can't control, but we can control, and this is the good part. We can control what we do about it afterwards. You know, I think about it this way. If you were putting away the dishes in your cupboard and you broke a dish, would you then take all the dishes in your cupboard and throw them on the floor and break them?
No.
Would you do that? Well, that is what people are doing when they say something bad happened to me, and now I might as well just say, pack it in. My whole life is bad. Even whether it's a small thing or even a big thing. And when it is a big thing, like a divorce or, God forbid, sickness, or things that are very, very, very difficult to go through, I am not telling you that you got to wake up the next day and say, so what? Don't care. Not at all. I'm saying we need to move through the things that make us unhappy. We need to make that agreement with ourselves that that's going to happen. But that does not mean that we still can't see the cup as half full and not half empty. And it also doesn't mean that we can't, another expression, stop and smell the roses, because that's the exciting part about our conversation today, is that you can be happy anytime you choose, in any situation that you choose, and it does not mean that your life is perfect. Far from it.
So do I try to remove fear or angst or anxiousness in order to be happy? Is that part of the process?
Rose, you're so good. Yes, and what you're removing the fear about is whether or not you're perfect, whether or not you're happy. The fact is that the closer we can come to accepting ourselves and accepting that life is not going to be perfect and it's not always going to be great, that's the same extent to which you can accept that from others. And then that leads you for more happiness in your relationships, because you say to yourself, well, I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right in all of my relationships. They didn't either. That person disappointed me. Does that mean that I need to be unhappy in the relationship? No. It means they're imperfect just as I am. So think about that happiness and unhappiness piece and what we're going to do about it relative not just to other people, but very much to ourselves. And there's a reciprocal process there. The same extent to which you allow forgiveness, as we said earlier, in your life with you is the same extent you will have in your relationships with other people and what you offer them.
So do I always have to start right here?
That's right, Rose. Okay. That's where it all starts with me all the time. It starts right here. We are in charge of how we navigate our life. We are not always in charge of bad weather. We're not always in charge of people who treat us the wrong way. We're not in charge of anything other than ourselves. And so why not realize that and take control about ourselves and about our life and what we bring to it?
Do you have certain thoughts that you think about when you want to be happy that you put in your head?
Yes, I do.
What are they?
I remind myself of what makes me happy. I remind myself of how fortunate I am to be alive. I start with that I woke up today. It's a great day. I then go to the people in my life who I'm so fortunate to have, my husband, my children, my close friends. I think about how I'm so fortunate to have a job that I absolutely love, helping people change. Sitting here with you this morning when I woke up, my very first thought was, I get to be with Rose, I get to be with you today, and that makes me so happy.
Yeah, so, and I love that because we do find things in our own head and our own lives that can make us happy.
We do and we can.
Susan, I'm starting out the whole new day being happy now.
I'm
Thank
happy
you
for
so
you.
much. And I'm happy for you. Thanks so much to our favorite life coach, Susan Harf. And if we take all these tips away about being happy, we're going to have a great day. Say, everybody, I'm Rose Martin for Real Life. Thanks for watching.